My ad reads yesterday were so bad we got demoted to a different studio. Psychos and sickos, or whatever it is that Eric calls you on a daily basis, welcome back to the PHNX Suns podcast. We are here live in Studio K, presented by Circle K. I said we got demoted to the studio, but the Circle K studio is pretty awesome as well. I am your host, Gerald Bourguet, filling in for Eric Ruby, who is still off at Big 12 Media Day, and joining me, as always, my co-host and partner in crime from the Take That for Data days, Stephen PridGeon-Garner. Stephen, how you doing today?
There's a lot going on.
There's just
behind the scenes.
Too much.
In the news realm right now with Phoenix basketball between the Suns and the Mercury. So busy. Booked and busy is probably the best way to put it.
Yes, we're busy in a great way because normally during this time of year, especially for a team that did not make the playoffs, there's not a whole lot to talk about. We are not in that category because we have plenty to talk about. Since we last did our show yesterday after the rookie intro press conference, we had availability again with Brian Gregory talking more about the Kevin Durant trade, the state of the roster, the rookies, more in-depth stuff than we were able to get out of the rookie presser. We got to talk to Khaman Maluach at their first Summer League practice availability. And then today, this morning, we talked to Jordan Ott, Damari Carroll, Oso Ighodaro, and Ryan Dunn at the second day of summer camp or Summer League availability. So there's a lot of great content out there right now. We're going to be sharing some of it on socials. We're going to be diving into quite a few clips here on the show. This is like one of those comedy sitcoms where they kind of just do flashback episodes and play clips, except this is stuff you've never seen before. So it's even better than that. We're going to dive right in with the Brian Gregory stuff because that was pretty interesting, the things that he had to say. And I think a lot of people are on this same train that the more that we hear Brian Gregory talk and the more that we hear him speak to some of the needs of the roster and the way that they're going about addressing the roster, it feels like faith is kind of starting to build in the GM despite, you know, all of the complaints and concerns that people had about him getting hired. But Stephen, let's dive right into our first clip. This is what Brian Gregory had to say when he was asked about the Kevin Durant trade and the return that they got.
We were in contact with Kevin and his team during the whole time, and our biggest thing was to, number one goal was to find a way to bring in the valuable pieces that would help us continue to move forward in the right direction. That was our number one goal in the whole thing. And with the trade came the draft picks, and also brought in, one of the rising stars in the NBA, in Jalen, and with Dylan, just a winner. Brings the toughness and the grit, defensive intensity. Had his best offensive year of his career last year. So the team got together at the end and felt pretty good about what transpired. And I've talked about Kevin at length, the respect I have for him. In my 2 years previous, just the relationship and the way he treated me and his professional approach every day. But that was kind of the game plan there.
Yeah, that was a very politically correct answer to cap that off. Wow. I can't say I'm surprised by it, but just hearing it again, it kind of like your initial thoughts, you think about it, it's like, okay, it's like reaffirming what you thought you heard the first time.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like there's more there that we're just not privy to. But I do like that he kind of spoke to specifics with the other players that they got in return for KD. And it feels like tapping the sign on clarity, but it feels like we're getting clarity to the vision that they've had with the pieces that they chose to get back in return for that deal.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see kind of the national response to what the Suns have done. Obviously, we were not very high on the Kevin Durant trade before draft night. And then what they were able to do with the assets that they had and some of the rookies, the youngsters that they got in return, I liked it a little bit more because I am high on some of the rookies, the particular rookies that they selected. I think it's fair to question a lot of things with this roster. Like a lot of people, brought up the whole trading for Mark Williams and then drafting Khaman right after that. They've brought up the Jalen Green and Devin Booker fit. Obviously, the Bradley Beal solution that we're probably going to arrive at here soon with a buyout and potential wave and stretch scenario. That's going to be all doom and gloom as well. If you missed it, we did talk about that a lot yesterday. I know people are fully waiting on that as like the big piece of Suns news that we're going to talk about. And once it happens, we will be going live most likely to talk about it. But if you're curious about why they're taking that avenue, we dove into a lot of that. And of course, I'll be writing about it later in the week. But for now, I do feel like the Suns have been pretty consistent on sticking with the vision and the blueprint that they're trying to lay out in terms of what they want the roster to look like. So it has been kind of interesting to see the national response be, they have no idea what they're doing. Like, they know what they're doing. It's just the way that they're doing it, some of the particular pieces that you might have qualms with. But I think they've been pretty consistent on getting younger, getting more athletic, getting downhill presences, getting rim finishers, getting rim protectors on the other end. But obviously you had to cut ties with Kevin Durant to make that happen. And there were a lot of people here in Phoenix that liked him, not just the fan base, obviously some of the players. Like we talked a lot last year about how Kevin Durant was an underrated leader and mentor to guys like Ryan Dunn and also Ighodaro. And so today we got to ask them about their thoughts on losing a guy like Durant, someone that they looked up to and someone who they viewed as a great teammate.
That's a brother to me, man. That's not even a teammate no more. That's a guy I love and I appreciate. I was out with him in LA this summer too, working out, and was able to go to his house and chill with him. So we built that relationship, and I wish him the best at Houston. I'm excited to go compete against him and talk some smack to him now. But as someone I can always turn to and learn from. So I wish him the best as well.
Yeah, man. He was such a great teammate, great leader for us. So. It was great to just be able to say I was his teammate and learned a lot from him and Raj. So, yeah, talked to him a little bit since he's left. So, yeah, I wish nothing but the best for him.
Yeah, for the national media pundits, names which we will not be speaking to on this podcast, but y'all know who they are. Y'all also know where they work at. The whole Kevin Durant is not a leader noise. And hearing how guys that spent just one season with him in their very first professional season, very contrary to the noise from outsiders speaking on what's going on inside the walls of the Suns franchise. Shocker, not a surprise. But at the same time, I think it's important to note because you have a void to fill now. And that's not going to feel no different than feeling his literal impact on the court. You're not going to fill his leadership void with just one person. And I feel like they're set up to get leadership from multiple pieces, including the coaching staff, in ways in which they just didn't last season for those two in particular.
Yeah, that's the hope. And I still feel like when you're looking at leaders, you should look at the coach first and foremost. Like that's the guy that's
the job description.
Like that's literally what you are being hired for. And Mike Budenholzer was clearly lacking in multiple respects last season. The leadership across the board last year was lacking. Like let's not beat around the bush, but I do think there were understated things like this that Dunn and Oso and us on the podcast touched on all last year. And Dunn mentioned again today in terms of what he learned from Kevin Durant and his time as his teammate is that you can never take a day off. You can never take a rep off. You can never go less than 100% in a rep. And that matters for young guys who are looking towards, one of their childhood idols in Kevin Durant as an example for them to establish good habits in their career. So I think that matters. I'm not saying Ryan Dunn is going to turn into Kevin Durant, but I think having that type of example of looking up to that guy goes 110% every single rep and implementing that into what he wants to take from being a professional. I think those things do matter. So as much as, some people are glad to move on from Kevin Durant, some people are excited about the youngsters. I do think that 1 year was good for Dunn and Oso in that respect, at least, even if it was bad from a team perspective.
Most definitely. And I will say also too, imagine you being a 22, 23-year-old, you walk into the gym and you got someone that's 13 or 14 years older than you. Mm-hmm. That also has every accolade that you could think of. NBA championship, gold medal, multiple of both. Finals MVPs, multiple of both. Scoring champion, all-time great. He has nothing more that he's working for on the accolade side. Mm-hmm. There's no incentive. There's no motive. He just literally just loves to hoop at the foundation of it.
Right.
If that dude can come in every day going 110%, what is your excuse? Because you haven't proven anything.
Right.
You have no excuse. The age is not it. Injury is not it. Accolades is not it. What's your excuse?
Yeah.
I think that putting it in as simple terms as that for those two and any other rookies coming in, it just shifts everything for you and it changes your mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one theme of this last 48 hours with all these press conferences has obviously been kind of turning the page from one era that did not go well. Mm-hmm. We'll have plenty of time to ruminate on what went wrong, to revisit Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal and all of these pieces. And I'm sure that we will do that moving forward. But for the last 48 hours, it's been all about the rookies, about the pieces coming in return, about the future, about the new look Suns. And one of the big ones that I've been wondering about, and we have different opinions on this in terms of how it's going to look, but Jalen Green being basically the main piece, established player-wise, that's coming back from a Kevin Durant trade. So I was able to ask Brian Gregory about how he sees that fit working out between two shooting guards who predominantly spend a lot of time with the ball in their hands.
I think we'll be really fast. You know what I mean? And the game is played at a faster pace. And the ability to attack and get downhill is something he does exceptionally well. Had his best three-point shooting year of his career last year. He's 23 years old, going to be 24. I think the sky's the limit for him, and I think him and Book being able to man that backcourt together in a lot of instances and the pace that they're able to play with and playing off each other, obviously, I think there's going to be greater movement, cutting, open opportunities for downhill drives. I mentioned it, after the draft, we did not attack the rim very well last year. It's an area we have to get better at. You do it three specific ways, on the drive, on the cut, a big man getting the ball in the post area, which doesn't happen all that often anymore. And then the effort way you do it is on the offensive glass. I think Jalen on those first two is going to be really, really good.
So first, I just want to answer a question in the chat from Ted Offensive. When is the press conference for Williams, Green, and Brooks? Don't know. I'm not sure if they will have one. If they do, it'll probably be after Summer League, since that's coming up this week. It'd be hard to squeeze one of those in this week before everybody leaves for Vegas, and those guys might wind up in Vegas, potentially doing some media availability there. We will have Espo and Eric on the ground for that. So we might hear from them there. We might hear from them in an official presser when they get back. It's unclear at this point. But to Brian Gregory's point about Jalen Green, he's right. They will be fast. He's right. Jalen Green does do a good job of getting downhill. I'm not sure I'm buying into the defensive optimism as much as Brian Gregory is. But Stephen, what did you take from what he had to say about their potential fit?
Yeah, the defensive side is interesting for me. I'm a little more optimistic, but on the more positive side of optimism, just because I understand that he's young. He's only 23 years old, going into his age 24 season, but also coming from a context where if you don't play defense, you don't play.
Right.
And needless to say, Ime Udoka is not a coach that allows for anybody to cut corners on the defensive end. So I think having that at his foundation for the last season and some change with Ime should translate to the Suns well. Obviously, he has to be held to account in that same respect. But offensively, the way he was getting downhill with Houston and the player personnel that they had wasn't the most complimentary to a player that likes to spend time in the paint as a guard in the ways in which he could do so. That's not going to be an issue with this Suns team, largely because of the guard group and the wing group that they have established. I'm very curious what that looks like for him going forward and what the shot profile that I desires for him is as well.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating because we have heard, not just in terms of Jalen Green, but other players on the roster, Gregory, Jordan Ott mentioned the cutting component. And I think that'll be an interesting thing to tap into because Jalen Green is so athletic and so quick, because he's not the most efficient. He's an elite shot creator, not a great shot maker. Whether they lean into that when he's off the ball a little bit more, because we know Devin Booker is the best playmaker on this roster. So I am curious to see how that all unfolds and whether Ott's able to maximize what Jalen Green brings to the table, because he does have good raw tools. It's about refining those and learning to be a little bit more efficient on both ends of the court. But Jalen Green is just one component of many on a very new look Suns roster. So with all the movement, Mark Williams, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, all these rookies, Nigel Hayes-Davis, who is not official yet, and I got in a little bit of trouble with Gregory for asking about that yesterday. There's a lot to take in terms of how this roster looks and what it's going to play like moving forward. So this is what Gregory had to say when he was asked whether he's happy and what he thinks about the state of the roster.
Yeah, I'm very happy. You know, I mean, you look at it, the game has changed. We talked about that during my press conference, during coach's press conference. We are bigger, we're longer, more athletic. I think we'll be able to play faster. I think defensively we have a chance to become very, very good. Some of it will be time, because there are some younger guys on the roster now. But I think when you look at the three guys who we just drafted and you add Colin, Oso, and Ryan into that mix, you throw Jalen in there, you throw Dylan in there, all new guys, Mark Williams in there. How the team looks has changed. How I think we can play will change as well.
Yeah, it's very evident that with the roster context shifting for the Suns, their style of play is certainly going to do so, and I think the style of play desired is leading that dance, and that's a kudos to Brian Gregory for his ability to facilitate maybe not the most perfect pieces, but pieces that can help to make that transition as seamless as possible for Jordan. Because it seems like a lot of the desired styles of play that they want to get into, most of those players bring individually at their foundation for skill set purposes.
Yeah, I think we should, and we've said this a couple of times on the show, we should get it through our heads that this is probably not going to be a playoff team next year. And if they are, they might cap out as a first round exit. That's probably what their ceiling is. But they do have a chance to be maybe a little bit scrappier than people are giving them credit for, especially if everything comes together and some of these young guys look immediately as NBA ready as you can for a rookie. We'll talk a little bit more in the next segment about Khaman Maluach and how he's been impressing pretty much everybody so far through these first couple of practices. But there is the potential for this group to be playing to a certain style that we wanted to see around Devin Booker, but haven't seen. Despite those rosters obviously being much more talented, having a lot more established players, there is something to be said about establishing a playing style and sticking to it, which the Suns have not been able to do since the Monty Williams days, pretty much. Like, you think about how we complained that the Frank Vogel Suns didn't have an identity, and somehow it was even worse last year. The identity was just, they're terrible. So if you can establish a playing style, if you can add more defensive-minded players, longer players, bigger players, and play faster, lean into more cutting, maybe you have a chance to surprise some people, to catch some people off guard. I don't think this is going to be a playoff team. We're going to see how they look heading into the season, preseason, and all those first couple of games, but that's a long way down the road. Steven, any thoughts before we talk about our guy Maluach?
Yeah. Being younger does not always equate to playing faster, because if you're always taking the ball out the net, that's going to slow everything in your offensive process down. So by playing faster, that means that they desire to play a certain style of defense that's going to be significantly more active than they were last season. Very curious to see what that looks like. I imagine they use Summer League as a trampoline to get into what they desire to do come September and October.
Absolutely. And to your point, there's going to be a lot of good stuff that we're covering on tomorrow's show about the Summer League Suns and what kind of identity they've been trying to establish. Lots of good stuff from Jordan Ott and Damari Carroll about each other that we'll cover tomorrow. But we're going to talk a little bit more about Khaman Maluach after a short break. Listen, guys, it is hot as hell outside, so you need to extend your outdoor living space with a custom fit awning. And I'm going to tell you about our friends at All Pro Shade Concepts, who have hundreds of designs and colors to choose from to match any home, and they can even work with your HOA for approvals. They got rolled down patio shades to block the sun and keep the patio up to 20 degrees cooler. If it's 120 degrees, that means it's like 100 degrees. So that's doable, right? Like, that's golfing weather out here. That's perfectly fine. They can also replace and fix most old or outdated patio shades and motorized awnings. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a new purchase for you there. They are the most trusted local shade company, voted #1 by Ranking Arizona for patio shades in 2024, and in business for 20 years in the Valley. They started making window shades by hand for friends and family in Phoenix, so we love a good come up story like that. Call 623-204-1476 or visit allproshadeconcepts.com now to schedule your free estimate. And speaking of staying cool, APS can obviously help you with that as well. When you are indoors and need that fresh, cool air, July is a time to celebrate the red, white, and blue. But like I said yesterday, if you are white and you are out in the sun too long, you will be red and then you will be blue about it. So a smart thermostat works for your APS rate plan. It'll help you automatically adjust the temperature in your home. And for every 1 degree that you raise your thermostat, you could save up to 2 to 3% on your cooling costs with APS if you have this smart thermostat. So a smart thermostat does make it easy. If you're away from home and forgot to adjust your thermostat, you can do it from your smartphone as well, or your device from pretty much anywhere. So right now, APS customers may be eligible for smart thermostats for as low as $0 when you enroll in the APS Cool Rewards program. If you already have a smart thermostat at home, see if it's eligible to enroll in Cool Rewards, plus free install available at marketplace.aps.com. Must be an APS customer and pay shipping and taxes. Other restrictions apply. Go to marketplace.aps.com for more information. And one last thing, Steven, because we care about sports. We care about sports for good causes. So our pickleball tourney is all of the above. We're partnering again with our friends over at Chicken and Pickle on July 26th at 10 a.m. for a pickleball tournament. The cost is $35 for an individual or $70 for a team. So if you guys are pickleball players out there and you're able to make it out to Chicken and Pickle, they've got great food out there. It will be on the indoor court, so don't worry. You're not going to be melting in the sun, even if with your APS and your All Pro Shade Concepts with you. We've got, it's for diehards of all skill levels, from beginners to, the expert pickleball players, the ones that have their gear. Yeah, we know who you are, but it's for beginners and experts as well. We'll have prizes, food and drink specials, more. And part of the proceeds from the event will go to support the Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Central Arizona. So it's also for a good cause. So if you are able to spend the money, spend a day with us, eat some good food, play some pickleball, stay inside and stay cool, it's for a good cause as well. Steven, let's talk about Khaman Maluach, because one of my big takeaways, obviously when he's the highest draft pick of the rookie class, he's going to be the one that's more touted than others. But everyone that we have been talking to has had nothing but good things to say about this kid. And for a lot of people, there were question marks about why you would trade for Mark Williams and then immediately draft Khaman Maluach. And that was one of the things that I asked Brian Gregory about, how that timing all kind of unfolded on draft night.
Well, when we saw the opportunity to do both, for us, we were like, we have to do it, because I talked about, we were very poor at protecting the rim last year. Now you should be able to have, full game where there's protection of the rim. Even if you go, smaller at the 5, I think if you saw Oso out there, the weight he's gained, the strength he's gained, he's going to be better defensively around the basket this year. That's a key. The game, so much of it is offensively attacking the rim, getting to the rim, scoring those baskets at the rim or creating that kick-out option, and then protecting the rim. because the better you protect the rim, the more you can pressure on the perimeter. So to get both those guys, we weren't passing that up. I thought that was, again, we discussed it. The first opportunity came, then the draft pick came. So we were very happy with that.
The last time the Suns had a legitimate rim protector was DeAndre Ayton and JaVale McGee days. Mm-hmm. I think that does matter. Like, a lot of people were questioning why they would do both, and they were saying, the Suns probably agreed to the Mark Williams trade, and then Maluach was there, and they just their hands were kind of tied, and they had to take both. I don't know that that's 100% true. I don't think it was their plan going into draft night to end up with both, and I don't think they expected Khaman to be there at number 10. But they went from having 0 minutes of quality rim protection outside of like Kevin Durant's secondary rim protection to having potentially 48 minutes of it if Maluach is ready to step in there, which by all accounts, it sounds like it. Gregory also snuck in that little hidden gem that Ighodaro has, bulked up, gotten stronger to potentially protect the basket a little bit better. But what are you taking from Gregory when he talks so glowingly about when we could get both? We really wanted to get both.
Yeah, it's the dire need. You can just not even try to sugarcoat it. Right. The absolute dire desperation for this team, and I'm looking at assessing the weaknesses of last year's roster and doing everything they can to get above league average at those weaknesses, and then allow for everything else to kind of fill out. Starting with the defensive flaws more than anything else. They said they want to play fast. Like I said before, you can't play fast unless you're getting stops and playing with a requisite level of activity. That activity comes in scheme, but it also comes in protecting the rim. Mm-hmm. A lot of block shots typically help to spearhead a transition attack. So if you can rely on your rim protection to be in position to be impactful for you, that means, like Brian said, you can pressure players on the wing more comfortably, knowing that your backside is covered. And if it is there and it's impactful as it suggests that it can be, now you're seeing Jalen Green filling lanes for Devin Booker, and he's throwing alley-oops to him, or Mark Williams rim running, or Maluach rim running, or Rasheer Fleming rim running. There's a lot of options there for them. There's a lot of food on the table for them in transition on offense, but the defense has to set the table.
I think that's a key component of what we've heard from Gregory, and then what we heard again from Jordan Ott today was that, to have that rim protection, that is what lays the foundation for being able to be more aggressive on the perimeter, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. And obviously the Suns did not really have the personnel for that the last couple of years, but this year they do. They have a lot of young guys. They have a lot of guys that can get out there and harass ball handlers. So if you have somebody on the back line that can protect the rim, and even better, maybe be versatile in their pick and roll coverages in terms of defending at the level, maybe even switching in a pinch, those will help boost your defensive versatility, and that'll help you be more aggressive and generate some of those deflections and steals and turnovers that have been sorely lacking the last year or two here in Phoenix. And I think Maluach is a key component of that. So last year at Duke, as the year went on, a lot of people made note of the fact that in his pick and roll coverages, a lot of it was drop early on. And as the year progressed under John Shire, he kind of, he was hedging a little bit more. He was at the level a little bit more. He was switching every now and then, the improvement on that front. So I asked Maluach about where he felt he improved and how much that defensive versatility that he brings to the table can make an impact.
Last year defensively, it felt like you got a lot better with different pick and roll coverages as the year went on. Where do you feel like you improved defensively as the year kind of went on?
I mean, as you said, I got better in defensive coverages. I got better in a lot of different spots, and just knowing knowing how to navigate the game and how the game is going, and being able to adjust in the middle of the game.
How much is that something that you feel like is part of your wheelhouse, being able to, switch and do different things that maybe a guy normally your size wouldn't be able to do?
I mean, I feel like that's what I bring to the table defensively, and that's what I bring to a team, and that's what I bring on the table to impact a team and impact an NBA game right away.
That's why, in addition to an individual player's talent, I always like to look at the program that players are coming from as well. Mm-hmm. Because some programs groom their athletes for the professional level maybe more, sometimes significantly more than other programs. And that's not necessarily D1, D2, D3. It's about the coach, the system implemented on both ends of the floor, and how much akin to that system is it to the NBA level, NBA style of play. Needless to say, going to Duke, regardless of who the head coach has been the last 20-some-odd years, you're going to leave that program as professionally ready as you can possibly be. With John Shire, obviously a team that had national championship aspirations. They didn't quite get there, but Maluach is certainly well prepared for the featuring of his talents on offense and defense, but specific to defense. Multiple coverages is very important. You got to keep ball handlers guessing. If you're keeping the same coverage, you'll look a lot like the Suns did defensively last season. I don't imagine that's an issue for him going into this season, but I don't think that Jordan and company will allow for it to be either, because there are going to be demands and challenges placed upon them to get the absolute most out of his athleticism in space.
For sure. And it starts with Summer League, obviously. It's going to be fun to watch him and the other rookies be out there. And it's also going to be fun because they're going to be playing next to Ryan Dunn and Ighodaro, who at this point feel like veteran, like longtime Suns, even though they've only been here for a year because of how much turnover we've had recently and how much new youth is being injected into this team. But it was kind of interesting, as a quick aside, what Khaman had to say about the way that Ryan Dunn and Oso have kind of taken over the leadership role for the Summer League group.
I mean, it's just small stuff like taking care of your body or being on time or taking care of everything off the basketball court and on the basketball court. And they're there to us as veterans or big brothers because they've been through this, and this is their second year, so they know what's up.
Not to like overemphasize the use of one word that's kind of coincidental, but you hear Ryan Dunn and Ighodaro talk about Kevin Durant being like a big brother. And then you hear Khaman Maluach first day of Summer League practice talk about Ryan Dunn and Ighodaro be like, they're like his big brother. So those, like, he was all about, staying healthy, yes, but developing good habits as a pro and learning what it takes to be a good pro. He mentioned that several times at his intro press conference yesterday. And so for him to have Oso and Ryan Dunn there, guys who learned a lot about those things last year on this Summer League team, kind of giving him pointers in that regard, I do think that's helpful for a guy who understands he has to be healthy to make an impact.
That is the foundational level of a culture being established, because those two players are just taking all of the things that they experienced and observed last season, just 365 days ago, and applying it in real time. That should help to expedite, because no one can relate more to the rookies coming in than the sophomores of last season. Right. So I think there's a natural understanding level that those guys have, and I think the fact that they did have the lows that they saw last season allows for them to be able to more easily identify the things that simply are not going to get the job done if the team is trying to get to a retool that potentially keeps them in the playoff range.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those relationships are important. They're obviously very fresh. They're very new because they've only known each other for maybe a couple of weeks max. But it is exciting to hear that type of feedback already early on. And it's also really nice to hear from established players who have, well, not established, but they have played a year in the NBA. So they understand what it looks like to be able to play at this level. So to hear Ryan Dunn talking about Khaman Maluach being special, I think that spoke volumes when he talked about it today.
They're youthful. Khaman, man, he's special at 18. Super special. I mean, him flying around, talking, being the loudest one on the floor, being able to guard and switch and being so active is great on the defensive end. And, him shooting the three, how he's been shooting it's been great. Pick and pop and corner threes, he's so confident, it looks good. And, he's just being aggressive. So I can only tell him to keep doing what he's doing.
Maluach out. He's shooting threes. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep doing it.
Could not resist.
I'm not even sorry. I'm going to keep doing it. But
honestly, it sounds like, it genuinely sounds like Ryan Dunn was speaking confidence into Khaman, which is, it's funny to me because obviously he's not talking directly to Khaman. He's talking to whoever. I think it was you that asked the question, right? So he's talking to Gerald Bourguet. But you can tell through that response the kind of confidence he's trying to infuse in him. That's a sign of leadership.
Yeah.
And again, if they're establishing those little things at the foundation of Summer League, this is Summer League we're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't imagine when you extrapolate it and then you put it towards an 82-game marathon, and how that helps to, again, just expedite the culture building dynamic of everything that and company are desiring to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement for Maluach, and I'm not sitting up here saying he's going to be, shooting 36% on like 2 or 3 attempts per game from three in his rookie year. But I think if he can do the baseline things that they brought him in terms of being an above the rim presence on both ends of the court, I think that alone will help the Suns, potentially in a backup center role or a spot starter, depending on how healthy Mark Williams is able to be this year. But it was encouraging to hear from Jordan Ott. Like, it's not just a rookie that's trying to breathe confidence into his new rookie. It's also a head coach who is liking what he's seen. Here's what Ott had to say about Khaman.
You know how big and long he is. It's obvious. His ability to run just creates a different dynamic. The vertical spacing that he has above the rim, and then just the overall size and rim protection. You can feel it every second he's out there. I think, again, just you saw it yesterday, even at the press conference, like his spirit, his upbeat personality, and he communicates on the basketball floor, which will be great because in Summer League, because there's not a ton of people there, you'll be able to hear him. So, we're learning more about him, just like he's learning about our system and his teammates. But he's been great.
That was the one thing that we heard from Jordan Ott, from Damari Carroll, and from either Dunn or Ighodaro is Khaman Maluach's communication on the defensive end is something that's really impressed them, which is not a common thing for a rookie coming in. So for him to be able to do that, and in a summer league setting where there's a lot of disparate parts, there's guys coming from all different programs, all different levels of play from where they were last year, and you're trying to kind of jumble them all into some coherent product out there. To have a rookie coming in, your number 10 pick, your potential future defensive anchor of the future, communicating like that with a lot of guys that he has never played with before and doesn't really know all that well, that is one of the more encouraging things that I took from availability over the last couple days.
Yeah, for sure. You can't show me an impactful defender that is not a high-level communicator. And it's not just about what you're saying, it's about the timing with which you're saying it. How early of a heads up are you allowing for the person that's on the ball to know what's going on behind them so that they can focus on Steph Curry? Because if you got Steph Curry and you're looking over here for a screen, by the time you look back at Steph, the ball's already in the net and he's probably running back towards defense. You're seeing the back of his jersey that's saying Curry and 30 on the back of it. And he's probably throwing up one of these too.
He's already turned around.
Correct. Yes. So those little things are important. We detailed that in the Maluach film session we did a little bit over a week ago, showing how preemptive his communication is and how that helps for the person on ball and the entire defensive shell to be successful. That is something I feel like is very translatable. It's not something that typically shows up because people get caught up in measurables and three-point percentage and how many dunks somebody had, how many block shots. You can mitigate having to block a lot of shots sometimes if your communication is as great as it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to emphasize the defensive part of it again, because the communication is important. But if you are as versatile as Khaman Maluach is, and if you are in a system where Jordan Ott wants his perimeter defenders to be aggressive, that communication is going to be vital, especially coming from a rookie who's going to make his mistakes, who's going to have to learn a lot of these different coverages. But if you are communicating well, you're able to gradually work your way through those things and turn mistakes into learning experiences instead of, a rookie kind of getting timid and shutting down. So I do think that kind of stuff is important. We've got almost 300 people in the chat here today, over 300 people in the chat here today. Let's try and get to our light goal of 120. We're not halfway there yet, but we could be right after our next break, which we're not going to take just yet because I forgot there's one more clip. Jordan Ott also spoke about the three-point shooting. We heard Ryan Dunn, what he had to say about Maluach taking those pick and pop threes, but what does the coach actually think about his three-point shooting to this point?
As an NBA coach, you get into these draft process pretty late, and just the way the NBA works, you're so dialed into NBA, the next scout, your previous game, the college game, you don't get to see a ton. With Khaman's ability, he's so skilled with his ability to space the floor. I don't think you want to put any expectations on him at this time. What he does provide right away is, his rolling ability, the ability to get on the rim. But I do think because of the possibility of him and also playing together, even at Summer League, that you're going to see him on the perimeter a little bit. So, I don't think you put any guardrails right now. You just see what he can do. I think he's surprised himself a little bit already. But you got to do it in the game. You got to do it for 82 games. There's a long path, a long road ahead.
Malo, watch out. This ride does not have guardrails. I love it. You heard him say you might see him next to Oso. You heard him say you might see him on the perimeter. I had asked earlier when he kind of gestured to me about the possibility of him and Mark Williams playing together. And he was kind of saying, you know, you see the league leaning into it a little bit more. Obviously in Cleveland, what we had with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen was because they were so skilled and they were so versatile. You know, he said he's not trying to put pressure on it, but they're not going to, you know, limit it if it works either. So that's kind of maybe a preview of how well Maluach might be able to play in a lineup with Mark Williams as we progress towards the season based on how he and Oso look. But yeah, interesting perspective on, you know, we don't expect him to shoot threes. We want him to start with his base foundation of, you know, protecting the rim, finishing at the rim. But we're also not going to limit this guy if he shows that he can do it.
And to that point, I'm very curious about what the guard group that they're going to be having in Vegas at Summer League is going to look like in terms of how many of those guys can turn the corner and pick and roll. Because if you have a guard that can turn the corner or a guard that can get to the ball even more so, that's where the pop option becomes not even just an option, it's by default, just to counter the coverage on the ball. I feel like more of the threes that Maluach is going to take, because he's going to be incessant upon getting downhill with his rolls, it's going to take a guard that has that dynamic for him to naturally get to that without thinking about it. So I don't know how much we see of that in Summer League. I hope we see a lot of it. If he's in double big lineups and he's not screening, and naturally he's in that position too. But that just speaks to the fun part of what we're looking forward to by the end of this week and kind of being able to assess real-time play, because there's certainly opportunity there. He's clearly a player with a ton of skill. And by all accounts, he's not necessarily Klay Thompson or Steph Curry, but he's a player that's willing to, and people like to see what he's been doing from deep.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered Khaman Maluach in pretty full detail here, but what do Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro feel about the culture that's being established, about the roster that's been put together, and do we have an update on Muscle Watch? We're going to cover all of that right after a quick break. Well, Steven, I'll tell you what, I am floored by all this Khaman Maluach praise.
You know,
sorry, I couldn't even get through without laughing.
Jokes.
But just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. And Empire Today can help you get it. Look, those big box stores, they might have a flooring department, but the person helping you with flooring may not be an expert. They may have been doing sinks yesterday or stocking light bulbs. So if you're feeling overwhelmed at the big box stores, and if you have a do-it-yourself project at home that goes poorly, I can probably go through 3 or 4 of those. You want to go with the expert touch of someone like Empire Today, because their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. You can pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space and see how it looks in your furniture, in your house. That convenience is really impressive, that they will come to your house and help you out with that. And with Empire Today, you get clear upfront and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day, because nobody likes to wait. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. PHNX listeners can receive a $350 discount when using the promo code PHNX. Yes, you heard right, a $350 discount with code PHNX. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday.com/PHNX for full details. I also want to tell you about our friends at Mountain America Credit Union. They are committed to helping more than 1 million members. They have 100 branches throughout the West. That is really impressive. That's more than the NBA will ever have in expansion teams, even with Seattle and Vegas entering the fold. So get 2 times the points on rewards credit card purchases through July 31st. If you use your Mountain America rewards card and watch the points pile up. It's perfect for gas, groceries, travel, home projects, other purchases, and their promotions are an easy way to stretch your dollar since you earn twice as many rewards. Redeem your double points for rewards like travel rebates, gift cards, event tickets, but this is for a limited time only, so you have to take advantage of it while you can. And the details are at macu.com/double. Loans on approved credit offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer, terms and conditions apply. All right, Steven, we have so much content to go through still from Summer League practices and Brian Gregory availability. There's all kind. We barely even talked about Rasheer Fleming. We barely talked about Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro very much. We're going to talk a lot about some of those holdovers tomorrow. We're going to dive into Jordan Ott and Damari Carroll, all the things they had to say about each other, some of the other players on the roster like Rasheer Fleming, who I know you guys are curious about. But today we got to close with some Ryan Dunn and some Oso Ighodaro fun. So if you are one of those people on Muscle Watch, here is your first invitation back into the offseason.
Man, everything. First I started with my body, gained 15 pounds, 12 pounds of muscle. So feel good, still fastest on the team. So, still moving, using my advantage, but got a little bit more strength to me, so that feels really good.
So Oso was asked what he's been working on, and he points to his body. And Ryan Dunn is standing off to the side there off camera. And when Oso Ighodaro says, yeah, put on 15 pounds, 12 of it muscle, feeling pretty good, Ryan Dunn just scoffs in the corner. And Oso looks at him and is like, yeah, still the fastest on the team, though. So these guys are still as lovable and as fun as you remember them. They still love to grind each other's gears. And Ryan Dunn was more than happy to do so when he was asked about Oso putting on 10 to 15 pounds.
Is that you scoffing at his weight gain?
Yeah, he ain't put on no 20 pounds. No, he did. He looks different, but he's really been working out this whole off season. So I'm very excited for his in the future too.
It looks like you added. How much?
I put a little on. I had a couple of 10, 12 pounds. Not like him, where he came in like 212. Now he's like 230. But just been trying to eat more, be more in the gym. Now it's just getting my cardio up, getting in game shape, and just learning and growing again. So I put on a little more pounds. I think I see it a little bit when I step in the mirror in the morning now. I don't feel like a twig no more, but yeah.
Yeah, the Muscle Watch crowd is always fun to watch at this time of year. And then obviously come media day for the rookies and the second-year players, but also the players being brought in. For me, especially looking at the side of the ball that those two identify with most being the defensive end, you have to be able to deal hits, but you also have to be able to absorb and take hits. To leave yourself out of fouling, to be a good defender, and to defend to a scheme. And needless to say, last season, like we talked about yesterday with the 3 rookies that the Suns are bringing in, it takes usually 1 to 2 years to get into an NBA weight room program for the results to play into your player dynamic. If those two can, like I said, take the hits and whatnot that they need to defensively, that changes a lot for both of their respective individual ceilings within this team context. Because remember last year, a lot of times Ryan Dunn would get into foul situations, not necessarily off of bad discipline, but just off of size. Because teams or individual players knew you might be a good defender with your hands and your feet, but if I can get to your chest, I can create space. And if I create space, then you have to make up for it. And if I pump fake, now you're at my mercy. That's what we saw with Luka Doncic. We saw with James Harden. We saw with LeBron James regarding Ryan Dunn. And with also naturally being in the paint, you saw it a lot as well. That's not as much of an issue for those two. They can add some valuable depth to the team this season.
For sure. We heard Brian Gregory mention it kind of unsolicited about how Oso had put on some strength and put on some weight so that he could defend the rim a little bit better. And Ryan Dunn, we don't have the clip, but I had asked him, like, can you feel the difference with those, extra 10, 12 pounds that you say that you've put on, the extra strength, being able to play with a little bit more physicality? And he was saying, like, right now, he's kind of adjusting to the new defensive scheme of, like, I'm harassing everybody on the perimeter. So he said, once I get my wind back up again, I'll be able to kind of test it out and see how I can take those bumps a little bit better than maybe before. But he did say he could feel the difference there with putting on some of that strength. And I know that we joke about Muscle Watch. They both did look noticeably bigger. So that is encouraging because we know, like Ryan Dunn said, I look like a twig. Not so much anymore. And Oso was already a big boy. So if he's even stronger now, I like what that could potentially set them up for. We're not quite to our light goal quite yet. We're more than halfway there. So appreciate all of you being in here with us. Ted Offensive, Leo, JJ Andate, or JJ Sandate, Amelia, Sean, Kaylee, Bene Round. Love all of you for being here with us. We know that there's not a ton going on in Sun space right now, but we appreciate all of you, whether you're diehards or not being here with us. We're going to hold it hostage a little bit longer for this next clip until we get some more likes. So make sure to hit that like button before we do it. Steven, I kind of lied. I don't really have a transition. So let's talk about our next clip here because we got Oso Ighodaro talking about the 3 rookies because I'm always curious to see what the established players are seeing, in the first day or 2 of practice from the young guys. Here's what Oso had to say.
Man, I love our rookies. I think most importantly, really high character, all 3 of them. Just want to learn, want to get better. Man, they're really good players. They're going to be really good for a long time.
I think that goes to the point that you brought up earlier in saying that him and Ryan feel like they got a crop of good players that, like Oso just said, will be good for a long time. Mm-hmm. Especially for a team that's in retool mode. I keep coming back to that foundation part because you got a rookie head coach. You have your most rookies that you've brought into your team via the draft in, since 2018, 17? There's a matching of timeline to where it's not the roster and the level of experience being ahead of the head coach, but it's also not a veteran head coach that's inheriting a significantly younger roster. There's a nice pairing there, and I feel like it allows for them to learn at the same time, but also grow at the same time too.
Absolutely. There are going to be some fun summer league lineup. There's going to be some fun configurations. They might use it as an opportunity to test some things like we kind of talked about with the dual big type stuff. Seeing Khaman play on the perimeter, seeing, maybe some small ball with Fleming at the 5 or the 4, because he touched on it yesterday. He grew up being a point guard, and then he grew so fast that he was a big man, and now he's kind of a wing. So he's had experience playing all of these different positions, which kind of speaks to his potential skill set at the next level there. We're going to talk a lot more about Rasheer Fleming tomorrow. Someone in the chat, I think Russell Smith, asked if Jordan Ott has filled out his coaching staff. Hasn't filled it out yet. We do have some names. We're going to be talking about Damari Carroll and some of the other names that we've heard on tomorrow's show, so make sure to come back and tune in for that. But the one thing that stood out in terms of talking about the rookies, in terms of talking about Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro all day today, is that they are all fitting with this coherent theme of what the Suns are looking for. And I'll leave it to Ryan Dunn to explain what Brian Gregory wants from this team.
Brian Gregory's talking about the kind of players, the kind of style that you guys want to play. Is that something?
Yeah, he wants dogs. he wants dogs on his team. He doesn't want people that's gonna, shy from a challenge or like people try to drag us under. So, and not even just him, Matt Ishbia, Josh Rothstein, that whole front office, and now come bringing the coach out and bringing the guys that resemble that is going to be great. So we're going to have some fights in practice, even summer league, maybe some training camps, but I'm excited for it.
We want some dogs. That's got to be a shirt soon, right?
Yeah. That's what this team lacked a lot last season. Mentioned last season we only had 3 mainstays as blue collar boys.
Yeah.
And one of those 3 was brought in at the trade deadline, and Nick Richards.
Right.
Now we're talking about upwards of 6 to 7. So they're doubling, if not a little bit more than that, the blue collar group going into next season. I think that is very important because you simply can't compete if you don't have multiple players that are bringing those BGE moments that Oso spoke to ad nauseum last season. Now that they have that, I think that's going to be something that characteristically in the individual player scope that Brian Gregory is going to be looking at for everybody that they're entertaining the thought of bringing in.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if this team will be good, but they will be more aligned than last year. They will have more dogs than last year.
For sure.
And hopefully they will be that scrappy team that we've been waiting on since Frank Vogel said we're going to be scrappy as hell. That team has never surfaced. There are still some holdovers from the last couple of rosters, but they're not guys that I look at and say, oh yeah, they can't play that certain way. They didn't last year, but they can, especially with this infusion of youth and athleticism and defensive-minded, long-limbed guys. So hopefully we see more of that because we heard all last year, we want to be competitive. Our main goal is to come in every day and every team says that. Every team wants to come in and get 1% better than the day before, or compete every practice, every rep. But are you actually going to do it?
Yep.
And so far, in terms of the things that we've heard from Brian Gregory, from Matt Ishbia, from the identity and culture they're trying to establish, they have actually backed it up with a lot of the prototypical players that they brought in. So, or the archetypal players that they brought in. So I am encouraged by that. I still want to see it. The proof has to be in the pudding, obviously. And even if they do play that way, there's no guarantee that they're going to be more than a 35-win team.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you have a vision, if you have an identity, you can build on that, and it'll make for a more fun season than last year's 36-win disappointment.
And that's the I imagine they look at 36 as their absolute floor.
Mm-hmm.
And floor in terms of the literal record, but the process and the confidence and the perception behind what that ultimate number is that they finish the season with regarding wins. Again, I find solace in everything that they're speaking to coming aligned with the defensive end of the floor, first, second, and sometimes even third before getting the offense.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a reprogramming of the approach to the general rotation, and I think Jordan Knott is starting to kind of establish some of those foundational pieces that they need for them to play the style of ball that he wants to.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final thoughts? I know it's been kind of a whirlwind last day or two here. We've had a lot of press conferences, a lot of availabilities, a lot of transcribing for your boy over here. So we did our best to give you a coherent show to the best of our abilities. We're going to have plenty more that we didn't get to touch on for tomorrow's show, because I'm not kidding. There was a lot of great responses, and there are so many new players that we got to hear, the GM and the coach and the assistant coach talk about. So a lot of good stuff to cover heading into Summer League. But Steven, anything that we didn't touch on that we should hit before we circle to our last piece of news for the day?
No, because I feel like we're going to be picking up the baton off of today, tomorrow, in 24 hours. So
yes, lots of good stuff on Rasheer Fleming, lots of good stuff on Kobe Brea. I'm working on getting some interviews behind the scenes with some people who know those guys very well. So hopefully we'll be able to have some more exclusive content over at gophnx.com. Going to be a lot of written stuff. Most of it is for diehards only. So you need to make sure to become a diehard so you get access to all of my written content, all of Steven's extra stuff. He's going to have an awesome Rasheer Fleming film breakdown tomorrow. Him and Ayrton slaved over this thing. So there's going to be, about 15, 20 minutes for non-diehards.
20-some minutes?
20-some minutes for non-diehards, and then an extra 15 for diehards.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you are back here for that. That's going to go up tomorrow morning. I'm going to have a lot of written content once Bradley Beal is most likely resolve that whole situation. We're going to have player breakdowns on all of the new guys coming out. So make sure to sign up for that while you have a chance. And you also get access to our diehard only Discord. Yeah. A lot of activity in there on the Sun side of things. We've never had more people being active in the chat. So it's a great place and a little less toxic than Twitter or Reddit to discuss your favorite team.
Your escape.
Yes. And you get a free t-shirt when you sign up, which, t-shirts online go for $30 nowadays anyway. That's pretty great value as it is. But the last piece of news before we leave you guys for today, we have a two-way signing, the Suns' final two-way spot. Kobe Brea obviously hasn't officially signed his two-way deal yet. I don't think they haven't sent the presser out for that, but we've got an Isaiah Livers sighting. He will be signing a two-way deal. He didn't play last season because of hip surgery, I believe. He'll be coming back this year. He's a 6'7" wing, adds a little bit of size. We did hear from Jordan Knott today a little bit about Isaiah Livers. So maybe we'll touch on that tomorrow when we have some more time. But Steven, your thoughts on this guy? He didn't put up fantastic numbers the last time we saw him. I think it was 23 games for the Pistons the year before last season. Didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but has some size. Could be an interesting two-way pickup.
He's a Michigan guy.
Yes, he
I'll
is.
Go ahead I'll get the elephant in the room out first.
Yep.
And I'm speaking personally when I say that he's a Michigan guy, because as a Michigan State fan and supporter, yeah, he was a problem. That was a long time ago that we were removed from that. I think them taking a flyer on a player that's going to be looking to reestablish his value after a season that he just couldn't play because of injury last year.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for him on the two-way deal with a team that's also very much in the same space that he is in terms of rebranding in a sense.
Yeah.
We'll hear more about the rebranding part with the clips we have for tomorrow. But I like the Isaiah Livers fit in terms of the position he plays, a versatile forward that can do multiple things on both ends of the floor. I think there's a natural fit there, and I like it. I like it a lot, as well as with obviously with Nigel Hayes-Davis and a couple of the other pieces that we've spoken to.
Yes, and hopefully we'll get some of these deals made official that haven't been made official quite yet. So we can. I made a mistake yesterday when I was hounding Brian Gregory for more Nigel Hayes-Davis information, and he was telling me I can't talk about it, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm going on 3 to 4 hours of sleep because I'm a father now. So he gave me a little bit of grace. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the PHNX Suns podcast. This has been an adventure because your boy is not used to doing ads, but we got through it together. So we appreciate all of you being here. Make sure to leave a like on the way out. You can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. You can follow Steven on Twitter at StevenPG3. You can follow me at Gerald Bourguet. And we will see you right back here tomorrow so we can cover all of the great sound bites that we could not possibly squeeze into an hour today.
We all silly like the mayor.